Hello. Thank you so much for clicking on this video today. I really appreciate it. This is the Cardano Aura podcast. I bring anybody that I feel adds value to the Cardano ecosystem on the podcast. And it's hard to get everybody on because there are so many people adding value every day at this point. But today, we have Dan from Crypto Capital Venture. He does TA analysis, and he's also kind of moved into Cardano content as well. Instead of TA, also doing, Cardano videos. What's going on here? What is the narrative for Cardano? And I honestly really enjoyed the podcast, and I hope you do too. And I know a lot of you, your first questions may be, BigPay is bringing on someone that talks about, price and trading. And, in Cardano, we have a sore spot for, for trading and TA analysis. But, in my opinion, I think that sore spot, is derived from Cardano being undervalued for so long, right? But, looking at it from a practical standpoint, price does matter. I operate a business on Cardano. You may operate a business on Cardano. And Project Catalyst, pays out funds relative to USD. So if the price of ADA is lower, then that's more ADA going out. So price does inherently matter. Does it matter, in the long term? I would say no. I'm very bullish on Cardano. No financial advice here, of course. But, in the short term, price does matter for businesses because I need to determine, my expenses. I need to determine how many people I can hire. There's a lot, that counts on price. And I think it's very important, for entrepreneurs and also investors of Cardano, unless you're, DCAing and holding long term, it's important for you to know, the probability of which way the price can go so you can make accurate decisions on how to preserve yourself and preserve your business in the short term. So that's why I'm having Dan on today, is to really start this learning journey for me, to learn, basic TA so I can make, more reasonable decisions about, my business, about cost, and also, to get away from the fear, right? Because we all feel it now. There's a little bit of fear, a little bit of FOMO, a little bit of, FUD that we all fear. And when you know TA, it can help you with that at least a little bit. I'm excited to have Dan on to learn about his Cardano story and also learn a little bit about TA. So if you do enjoy this content, I really appreciate it if you click the like button, comment it down below, click the notification bell and click all. We also are doing a watch party tomorrow at 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what the watch party is, it's a Cardano 360 event, but I come on 30 minutes before, and it's pretty exciting for me. So I come on 30 minutes before, I hype everybody up, and then the Cardano 360 event starts 30 minutes later. I full screen that event, and we all learn together, we talk and chat, I answer questions, and then following that, we do a recap at the end, and then I upload, a more detailed recap later in that day or the following day. So if you're interested in showing up to that, all you have to do is come at 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow for the watch party. I also do a Monday AMA every 3 p.m. On Monday, of course, EST. And I have a lot of fun on those two. All I do is answer your guys' Cardano questions or answer your guys' crypto questions. So let's jump into the podcast today. Also, can't forget, if you guys want to support this channel, the best way you can do so is by delegating to Bloom. We have Bloom through Bloom 6. Bloom actually minted the 8th block on the Cardano blockchain. So we've been here from the beginning and we'll be here till your end because Cardano will live past us all. And also, you get paid Kickash rewards and Bloom tokens on top of your staking rewards and not in exchange for. So if you guys are interested in that, you know how to delegate. If you don't, watch my how to delegate video, but let's jump into the video today. So to get this podcast started, it was a very interesting time for Dan to come on here because I don't pay attention to markets much, but something very interesting happened yesterday and I wasn't expecting it. We saw the price of Bitcoin go from, the 32,000 range to the 33,000 range and immediately jump in a span of, 8 to 12 hours and go over, 40K before, consolidating back down to 37,000. And, I can't read charts very well. So, tell me what's going on.
Well, so obviously, thanks for having me on the channel. I, do a lot of technical analysis, been following Bitcoin for years, other altcoins, Cardano, as you know. And, in the macro sense of things, I have just maintained this opinion that we're in the middle of the bull market still. I still think we are, even after this 50% dip. What I think's going on is, markets have been consolidating for months now, which is totally normal. If you look historically at the charts, Bitcoin, any crypto, we get these huge dips, 40% plus, and then it's just kind of stagnant. It's trying to figure out what direction. Um, the sentiment on Twitter and YouTube, is just full of emotion. And it's like, in my mind, I'm just kind of seeing all of that worked out, right? Everybody's venting, everybody's doing their thing, but on the charts, it's the same thing. It's being worked out. And that's why I like technical analysis, because it gives structure to the emotion of it all. Because, if I'm just not using TA at all and I'm just solely focused on going on Twitter, seeing what everybody's saying about price, like I'll go crazy. I personally, and this is probably why I got into technical analysis, I personally need, that structure. If I'm going to be in this game, as an investor, I need structure. So that's why I look at the charts. It paints a nice picture of even the emotional aspect of it, the volatility aspect of it. So long story short, that's what's playing out. Consolidation, which is normal. And, on the macro, I think we're still in the middle of this bull market, and we just have to wait for certain things to happen to kind of get that confirmation, because there's obviously a lot of risk. We've had these little mini pumps in the last couple of months. We get excited, it was just in July, the beginning of July, Cardano was making a little pump, saw resistance, and then came back down to $1, so we're in a similar position. Cardano's moving up, Bitcoin's moving up, but we're not fully seeing the trend reversal confirmed yet. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from when you speak on emotion. 3 years ago, I didn't really have enough invested in cryptocurrency to feel that emotion. I just thought long term, 5 years. I believe in Cardano. I believe in everything they're doing. In 5 years, I think that they're going to be doing very well. But this has shifted. The price has gone up so much. I have a lot invested. I'm also operating a business on top of Cardano, and it gets me thinking. I have to determine my costs in this business, relative to the price. So I do really see the value in TA, whereas before, the people in the Cardano community didn't really like talking about price at all, because we weren't really doing too well, even though a lot of great things were happening underneath with the technical aspects. So we always kept it out. But now with Project Catalyst, relying on the price of ADA to pay out the amount of funds they have, with so many people operating businesses on top of Cardano, knowing, or at least having a perspective on the probability of which direction the price can go, I think is very important.
Definitely agree.
So,
Yeah, and I will say I do get the, because I do see a lot of people, that do say price doesn't matter, and I 100% respect that, and I think even having that dialogue is important, especially pertaining to Cardano, because if you do put aside price even for a moment, it does allow you to focus on the bigger picture, which is the vision. And the vision and the success of that vision, is foundational to price, right? So price is kind of that cherry on top. If the value of Cardano is increasing, it's because the vision is succeeding. So I think it's good to kind of separate the two, kind of talk about them separately, but understand how they do kind of converge at some point.
yeah. And, obviously they separate often at times when we have, great technical releases from Cardano and the price will go down, or you'll hear great news, oh, Gogan's coming next month, or this big advancement, whatever it may be, and then the price will go down. So obviously there's a disconnect between, narrative and TA. What is the percentage effect do you think that, TA has, or narrative, or, is there a time where they break,
You mean if something big is happening for Cardano, price will reflect in that? Like how often does that happen? Is that what you're asking?
Sorry for not explaining that well. What percentage do you usually count on TA versus a narrative? Because sometimes great things can happen, sometimes bad things can happen, and it has no effect on price. So what percentage does TA hold value, relative to the narrative? And how does that change at times? Because I really don't understand.
Yeah, you know what? It's a flip of the coin. It's truly amazing to me to see sometimes you'll see big news will really reflect immediately on the charts, right? Or just a big technical event will reflect on the charts. And then sometimes you just see nothing happen. And if you look back historically, I think it is just like a flip of the coin. It's 50-50. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't reflect on the charts. And that's kind of when I'm doing technical analysis and like we're leading into events, obviously Alonzo hard fork coming up. I try and be very careful with saying, hey, everybody, it's happening. This, smart contracts are coming. Be ready because price is going to go up. Like it's not a definite thing. You know what I mean? And the correlation between those things, I won't even pretend to know. And that's why, again, I like doing technical analysis is because it does allow us to anticipate the effects that it could have. But at the same time, we just don't expect it. I always say expect nothing, anticipate everything. Historically, especially in the recent year for Cardano, and this is something I've been tracking on the channel, historically leading into a big event like this, the 2 months leading into it have been really good for price. And that's why it's going to be kind of like this real life demonstration to kind of answer your question, how often does it correlate to price? Because going into the Shelly, we saw, ridiculous gains. And then going into Mary, we saw ridiculous gains 60 days prior each time. And now probably, what would you say? We're approaching 60 days prior to Alonzo. And it's just like, is it going to happen again? And that's going to give us some more data to really see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So earlier you mentioned you don't think the bull market is over for cryptocurrency as a whole. Would you be interested in showing us with TA why you believe that?
Yeah, sure. Let me pull up my screen. How are we looking?
Looks great.
Cool. So, and by the way, here's the Cardano chart, and this is exactly what I was just saying. Which is this green rectangle. And now it's more precise. I mean, over months, I've been kind of just charting a big square, right? So, here's Mary hard fork in March and just see this run up, right? And this run up going into Shelly. And now we have smart contracts somewhere in here, right? September area. And it's kind of like, is this going to repeat again? So that's kind of what I'm watching. And what's so interesting, to answer your other question, is at the same time, we're kind of trying to explore what's going to happen here. We have Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is really foundational to any, Cardano or any other altcoin TA that I look at for me. Just because for Bitcoin, it's just this zoomed out story being told. I charted this back in the bottom of the bear market in 2018 back here. And so here's the bottom of the bear market, charted this, and it's really played out very nicely. I mean, it's not perfect, but we had this uptrend that we were recently in, and a retrace to, and I know this is, especially if you don't do a lot of TA or watch a lot of TA, this is probably like, what in the world is all of this? But it's all based around Bitcoin halvings. It's all based around the supply demand factor of Bitcoin and where Bitcoin is in this cycle.
So is that something you look at a lot, is supply?
Yes, and the diminishing supply of Bitcoin through the halving. So this white line right here is the 2021 halving. This white line is the 2016 halving. And you notice, if you look at this halving, July 2016 area, right around, 364 days into the bull market, which the bull market started right around here after the halving, Bitcoin retraced to a very important area, which is a 1618 line of a Fibonacci retracement. And that's a macro line of support for Bitcoin. Retraced right in the middle, and then we continued into the rest of the bull market. Now, same thing. Bitcoin entered a Fibonacci bull market, the bull market doors, which is this green rectangle I always talk about, and entered it. And 364 days into it, post 2020 halving this time, Bitcoin retraced to the same exact 1618 line. So technically, if you're just looking at charts, and there's so much more charting data, but technically, if you're looking at this would be essentially based on historical context of Bitcoin in the charts. This would be Bitcoin in the middle of this bull market, and even from a time frame perspective, there should be more upside before Bitcoin really retraces to the downside. And the whole thing, and I want to bring this up because I think it's important. This Fibonacci, right? And I want to explain Fibonacci real quick. It was founded by a mathematician by the name of Fibonacci, 13th century, I believe it was. And, it's really just a sequence that helps identify symmetry. And in relation to technical analysis, it just helps identify support and resistance areas. And so if we take a Fibonacci sequence, right, we're taking a retracement from the bull market high, this is a macro Fibonacci, to the bear market low, this is where we start seeing, the sequence play out, right? So this is a big resistance area, this green rectangle. It's considered resistance. Breaking this 786 to the 618 in my book, and we talked about it leading into it, would be the confirmation of the bull market. And that's why I call it the bull market doors. We had the same move back in 2016, bull market really beginning. And so it began here in November. We came back down to a 1618, which is a support area. And Bitcoin did the same thing in the middle of the last bull market. Now, all on these charts, and we kind of opened with this, talking about this, this is what human behavior and emotion looks like. And I use Fibonacci so often on the macro chart, what you see, but I use it all the time on, the zoomed in micro charts as well, because you see Bitcoin's volatile, right? Like, we can agree on that. And it's all over the place. But when you zoom out on this chart, it's almost just looks like an art piece. And when you're looking at Fibonacci and the history of Fibonacci, actually, you see the Fibonacci sequence all through creation, through music, through art, through architecture. You truly see these numbers, these exact numbers, 786, the 6 to this, 618, the 1618. You see these numbers throughout all of these different pieces of life. It's not just charts. And what it is to me, it really is structure, and it's human behavior just playing out before our eyes. You know what I mean? It's why it becomes, on the macro, a little bit easier to identify these oversold areas at the bottom of bear markets, right? When, fear is at the max. And it also becomes easier to identify the overbought areas where greed is at the max using Fibonacci, because it really is just, it's humans and it's emotion behind all of these charts. So that was probably a really long answer on why I think we're in the middle of the bull market, but I just thought it would probably be helpful to
I honestly think that was perfect, and I like the long-term perspective that you gave relative to the last bear market. And you pointed out the piece of the last bear market. How long did we sit there and consolidate for? Was it a shorter time period? I think it was 2016 or 2017. You said there was a consolidation period that you compared to the period that we're in now.
Exactly. So this is the one thing that's different this time around. And when we consolidated from this swing high, right? I think this is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
This one back here in the middle of the last bull market, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Got a big dip, just over a month before continuing. Now, the difference here is Bitcoin, when it made its final drop most recently, right now we're sitting at 77 days, right? So over 2 months now. And that's something different. Bitcoin diverging a little bit from itself. But you also have to remember, if you go back all the way to 2013, from this swing high to this big retracement, we had 91 days, right? So it gets easier as we have these different data points, because here we have a 42-day kind of consolidation to a very important area in 2017 before the next run up. And here in 2013, we have a 91-day before the next move up to the 2013 high. And now here we are, we're kind of at the average, of the two. Right now we're at 77 days. And this is exactly why I don't discount at all that Bitcoin is in the middle of this bull market. we can't just sit here and say, hey, 42 days was the middle of the last bull market retracement. This one can only be 42 days. We can definitely give it some cushion, I think, and especially with, I think, the amount of manipulation that goes on. I really think the price is in so many ways trying to be held down for accumulation, and it's not really speculation. I mean, on-chain metrics for Bitcoin truly show that there's a lot of accumulation happening right now. And I think in a lot of people's minds, the 30,000s, even the 20,000s is extremely cheap Bitcoin for them. So that's kind of why, again, lends itself to the case that we're in the middle of the bull market.
Okay. Do you think that there needs to be like a technological, innovation, for each bull market? Because I noticed with 2020, it felt like, the tech was starting to be there. We had Cardano with proof of stake, which kind of shined ahead of all of them. In 2017, we had, NFTs coming out and a lot of technological innovation with ETH. Do you think that we need that with, the next rise to pull us, or do you think we already had that innovation with this bull market? So we're not really waiting on the next technological innovation to pull us back up.
That's a really good question. I don't think a technical innovation is what's needed to pull price up. I think in general, there's a supply shock happening for, Bitcoin right now, but also for Cardano. And I don't think it's necessarily technical innovation that needs to happen. What's funny is I forget the exact conversation I was having yesterday, but somebody was saying, we need Amazon. It might have even been on Twitter. Like, we need an Amazon event to bring crypto to that next level of this bull market, to bring the prices up. And again, this kind of stems back to your question you had in terms of things happening within, I think, the Cardano ecosystem you were asking, but how does that reflect on charts and what's the correlation? How often? I don't think it matters. I think there's some really big events that could happen. There's smaller events. There's huge technical innovations that could happen. But whether they happen or not, I think the flow and the growth of these charts that you see on the screen will continue. Cardano right now, for instance, you're looking at the screen $1.24 as we do this video. No matter, what technical innovations happen in the next couple of years or not, I see this as incredibly undervalued. And I think it's going to go up in price. And what's cool about that, and I think what I'm grateful for, is Cardano ecosystem and the technical innovation that's getting ready to happen is just like very exciting to me, in many different regards.
Yeah, I agree completely. And also, I've been diving into a little bit of what's going on ETH right now. And I honestly am so thrilled for this to come to Cardano, and it's with Axie Infinity. It's the games. I actually, most of my life played video games. That's what I did. Unfortunately, I wish I would have picked up more skills along the way, but I really do see gaming as a huge use case, for both adoption of cryptocurrency, because people that game are already technology, savvy, and I just really do see that as a huge use case. And, without Goguen launching, I see that as kind of the big use case that if we needed something to fuel the rest of this bear market, that gaming, would be what did it,
Yeah. So you kind of are under the impression that, sorry, my camera just turned off for a second there.
Oh, no worries.
The gaming could be a potential technical innovation is what you're kind of saying that could really take us to the next level.
And we're seeing that right now. I watch Ivan on Tech. He's kind of my ETH guy that keeps me up to date on everything that's going to be coming to Cardano in 6 months to a year. And it's just the NFTs relative to gaming is blowing up over there. It's insane. I actually saw there with Axie Infinity, there are people, making $30 a day from essentially grinding and selling what they make to other people in first world countries, and they're making their living from these. And I really do see this as a huge use case for Cardano, once Goggen's here, because the fees are so much lower,
That's a great point. And I think, I don't have even a worry that those things are going to happen, right? Those innovations are going to happen. I just have such a confidence in the community and the builders that are going to leverage this technology and leverage Cardano blockchain to put these things together. Not something I can do. There's so many bright people out there I see on Twitter, on YouTube, you and what you're doing with everything. I just have just a 100% complete confidence that there's just going to be some sick stuff being built. And, that's partly what gets me excited about Cardano.
Yeah, me too. There are so many great builders, building for Cardano and really in the cryptocurrency space as a whole. I think the cryptocurrency space right now is, the biggest technological revolution, that we're seeing right now in our lifetime. And it's pretty awesome to be a part of it and even just watch it, from our YouTube channel or from our Twitter account.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
So I want to jump really over to Cardano and talk about, what's your Cardano story? What first got you interested?
My buddy Ed. Shout out to Ed. I'm sure he'll watch this. I actually got him into crypto years ago. After just telling him about it nonstop, we'd always hang out, lunch. Finally, I let him pay for lunch or some of the lunch in crypto. And then from that payment to I think it's a Coinbase wallet, he was just hooked. And he got very much into it on a level where he's actually really looking into it, like different projects, all this good stuff. And he got heavily, I guess he just went down the Cardano rabbit hole, and I wasn't there. I was just doing my thing, a lot of Bitcoin. I mean, mostly Bitcoin technical analysis at this point. And, just accumulating, and which was my main goal in the bear market. And he just started talking about Cardano, and just everything getting ready to happen in the ecosystem with staking and all this good stuff. And every time we meet up, he just kept talking about it. And I started looking into it, and I always liked Cardano from a TA perspective. I always just look at the Cardano charts. I'm like, man, ADA is so undervalued, especially at the bottom of the bear market. It's just so undervalued. But I never really took much notice of what was happening. And then, I started looking into it as he's talking to me about it. And
what time of year was this, and what year was it? Was it last year? Or?
Yep. It was probably, it was 2020. Probably it was leading into Shelly. Before that happened, and we were talking about doing a stake pool on the test net and things like that, and just having fun with it, learning about everything. That's about when I got in. And if you go back around a year to my YouTube channel, maybe a little bit more than a year, actually maybe last July, you'll see I just started covering Cardano a lot, and that's kind of where the pivot happened for me.
And how long were you actually doing TA for, other currencies before that? When did you start?
2018, right at the beginning of 2018 in January, the beginning of the bear market.
It's a good time to start.
It was, but I actually did this ridiculous video. It was a sarcastic 1 minute video. I was just messing around, and I uploaded it to YouTube, and it got views. And I was like, what is going on? I think because people were really hype about crypto. I was like, I can post a video and get views. That's crazy. So I just started doing some TA stuff on Bitcoin, and it just, I don't know. When you start, you probably know this, when you start doing something, if it becomes a daily thing, you just keep doing it. And at the beginning, I don't even know what I was really doing. I was just I got to do my video today. You know what I mean? I didn't have a vision for doing videos every day and starting a YouTube channel for crypto. But
yeah, I was the same way. I didn't really have this, grandiose vision. And even now with what I'm doing now, that's why it's changing so much and it's morphing. And I'm having to think, what will this be in a year from now or 5 years from now? Now that I know I'm going to be doing it, now that I know I really enjoy it,
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I guess the thing that drew me to Cardano is just I'm very entrepreneurial at heart, and a big piece of my background is failing. I have, 2008, for instance, I got heavily into real estate, right? I bought the top. I was just buying houses, property, bought the top, got wrecked in 2008. Had some successes in the stock market, got wrecked, had multiple different companies, one in particular almost took off. It just failed, so like my background is very much founded on failures. And as I started finally seeing success, it's all good in the business world and as an entrepreneur for my company. But in the crypto space, when I came across Cardano, that entrepreneur in me that just is like, man, there's just an open canvas with this blockchain to build, and for me, obviously, stake pools is one of those things, right? That's turned into kind of a little mini business for me. And I've had help in doing that in terms of the team that's helping me. I have a team of, I have a team behind me doing that. I'm not a technical dude. Like I can't put together a stake pool. But it goes beyond that for me, in the sense of I want to be in Cardano ecosystem. I want to support the builders in the ecosystem. I want to learn from, everybody within the Cardano ecosystem, because besides stake pools, I want to build more. And right now, I don't know what that would look like. I just
That was one of my
love
questions for you today.
That's the thing. I don't know. Like I just know that I love that the opportunity is there, and I am extremely confident that I'm going to build something on Cardano. Do you know what I'm saying? I just don't know what it is right now.
Yeah, that's where about 3 months ago I felt the same way. The stake pool is what I always wanted to do, and it's been done. And obviously, there's more to grow out and add more value there. But what's next? What more can I do for Cardano? And I think I've got it figured out, and we're going to release it in a white paper next month. But I know exactly from the place that you're coming from there. And that leads me into, you keep talking about builders. What projects are you most excited for that are building on top of Cardano?
I mean, everything you see, and there's so many, and some you could, many would argue, man, that's like a rug pull getting ready to happen. I'm excited about those because like, which ones of those are going to be proven victorious? You know what I mean? Like Sunday swap. I think a Sunday swap, and I'm just like, dude, such a killer marketing they have right off the get-go, and I like that. But then I also like the fact that, I think they had a meeting with Charles at one point when they were doing their ISO, and it just seems I saw a very big shift in their approach.
Yeah.
And that to me tells me that they're actually doing something. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they're taking this seriously.
Did you see them taking in Dwayne Cameron as one of their advisors from Liquid? They actually had him.
Did they really?
Yeah, that was today. I'm like, man, they're coming out swinging, because it seems like they came out with, like you said, great marketing, better marketing than I've ever seen anyone do on Cardano. Other than now Meld. Meld's doing well with the marketing now, but they just came out swinging when it came to marketing. I've never seen so many users commenting, so many people interested in something. And then what came second, was the technical aspect, and then the strategic partnerships, and they're coming out swinging with that as well. And I'm very impressed thus far.
Yeah, I'm very impressed. Right off the get-go, I saw Sunday Swap. I don't even know. I just got excited. I don't even
really
I didn't even understand. I just liked their approach to the marketing piece. And then I was like, all right, sit back for a second, really think about this, because I did a video on them when it happened. And I'm just kind of like, what project, Sunday Swap, Meld, and others, what project's going to just be that big one, right? When we're talking about decentralized exchanges and stuff, like what's going to be the Uniswap of Cardano? And questions like that are what intrigues me. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited about every project you see. World Mobile Token is like kind of a recent up and comer that I've just been seeing a lot on Twitter and YouTube. A lot of people becoming excited about that project. And just so many of those. I mean, we could talk all day. Nervos. Kind of curious. What about you? I'm curious about some projects are there any particular ones that you're like excited about?
Yeah, I've always been, since I had Ben Gortzel on and watching his podcast with Joe Rogan and then Lex Friedman and then having him on myself, he really does seem like a visionary. My stress with his projects is maybe he's too far ahead of his time, but I'm excited about AGIX, moving to Cardano from Ethereum. I'm also excited about all the projects that are under AGIX. SDAO is one of them. They're essentially doing DeFi, but with AI, using the AI from the Singularity network. Pretty excited about that. I'm also very inspired by everything that World Mobile puts out. I'm just excited to see their network launch and their token sale be done, and for people to actually have their tokens in their wallet. I'm excited for more content creators to start telling me more about World Mobile that I don't know as well. I've actually been working on myself a new series that I've been working on to where I just really do a deep dive on these projects where probably a 10 to 30 minute video depending on really the scope of the project, but really just digging in there what people need to know, how to hold it, how to maybe participate in like an Earth node, because World Mobile is going to have essentially staking, because they have to have a way to decentralize who's processing the transactions for the telecom communications, and just giving people that information relative to all these projects that are coming on Cardano. So you're going to start seeing a lot of the projects I like here soon, but off the top of my head, Ergo as well, because Ergo uses extended UTXO. I think there are benefits with relative to proof of work that proof of stake can't offer. And when you have a future where both Ergo and Cardano are compatible with each other, then who do you think Cardano is going to use for the proof of work necessities? It's going to be Ergo. It's already extended UTXO. They've got a great community. So what have AGIX, SDAO, Ergo, World Mobile.
Ergo, I mean, they seem like they're still a little under the radar, don't they? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like I see a lot talked about when it comes to Ergo, right?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Yeah, there's not much talked about them, and as Cardano becomes the third best cryptocurrency out there, I think Ergo is going to slowly kind of make its way up there as the extended UTXO proof of work blockchain.
The first best crypto out there.
Yeah,
maybe third in market cap.
Yeah, third in market cap, but I have no quarrels with seeing ADA at number 3 right now. It just feels great, because Bitcoin, yeah. I love Bitcoin, I love what ETH has done, and I love what Cardano is going to do. And obviously I do think that, slowly but surely Cardano will go to the top and take over ETH. And that actually is, one of my questions. Let's say, Goguen goes incredibly. How long do you think it will take for the flippening of ETH?
Oh man, I ask myself this all the time. I ask myself the velocity in which we'll see projects come to Cardano, and I don't know. Like I try not to get my hopes up. I feel like it could be so quick. I think it should be so quick. But the flippening of Cardano ETH, I mean, it's not going to take that much either. I think it could happen. I don't think it's something that would happen within like a couple months at all. I don't think that.
Yeah.
But I think it could happen, I think it could realistically happen in 1 to 2 years, probably closer to 2 years. It's just a big shift because it's for so long been Bitcoin, Ethereum. You know what I mean? They're just the two top dogs. So for Cardano,
that's why I mentioned it's so nice to see a third competitor there,
Right? Yeah, and it really is. But it's like, it's crazy how many, even still, like so many people discounting Cardano, talking trash. I go on Twitter and it's just like every day there's a new, someone out there that's just ripping apart Cardano in a tweet or something. And I'm just like, number one, I don't understand like why people take their time to be so negative about another cryptocurrency. But number two, it's just like, why? Why do you do that? Why don't you see what's technically actually happening? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand completely. You can't really go against the crowd,
Yeah.
I really do think that's what it is. And one thing I do like about Cardano is that I can openly get on here and say that I do like Bitcoin and I do like Ethereum, and that we are blockchain agnostic, and that the goal of Cardano is
Yeah.
to be the internet of blockchains. That's
Yep.
one difference I do see between Bitcoin, ETH, and Cardano is, the community and how we're not, so fixed on that blockchain. And I really do. Maybe it's them trying to save their ass, or it's either they just want to be a part of the crowd. But anybody that comes to me and shows me another proof of stake blockchain that's doing great things, that is solving something technologically, or doing research, I'm always like excited. What are they doing?
Yeah.
How can this benefit what we're already doing? And another good segue. What other proof of stake cryptocurrencies are you interested in?
Really not many. For a second, I was looking at Avalanche a little bit, kind of curious what they're doing. But I mean, until around, when I got into Cardano, I wasn't even really too keen or intrigued by, the staking aspect of crypto. I wasn't, I'm not a very like technical person, I got into crypto as an investment. I've tracked price, and I never want to come off. I'm learning so much, especially as I start covering projects, but I never want to come off as just this crazy technical, engineer type. We recruit engineers all day, every day at our recruiting firm, but me, myself, I just don't have that mind. So diving into Cardano staking mechanism has been like a huge learning curve for me. And I don't think I just haven't had the time even to look into other projects and what they're doing. I was exploring Avalanche, as I mentioned, trying to see what Ethereum's doing just to understand better, mainly the problems they're having, and the downsides to it, but, not too many others.
Yeah. So in my little ergo mining endeavor, I recently just built an ergo mining rig, and it really taught me how proof of stake really is the next step for cryptocurrency. Saying that proof of stake is a third generation. It's not just marketing. It's true. With mining, you're essentially, you have miners, processing, solving complex problems to show something that's value deterministic, saying, hey, I have a bunch of value here, and it's hard for someone else to get a hold of this value, so I'm going to process that relative amount of transactions. But you're wasting so much electricity with that because you're using the GPUs, right? Whereas proof of stake, what can we use that is value deterministic? It's the token itself. It's the ADA. And that's the difference. So instead of wasting all of the electricity and all the hardware and all the GPUs that aren't actually doing anything, they're not processing ways to find a vaccine for, I shouldn't say it on this before I get taken down, but shouldn't have even said that word, But did you see
Let's restart.
Yeah,
Let's just restart.
Go from the top, But they're not actually solving anything. They're not running servers for companies. They're just wasting electricity to show something that's value deterministic. And I've learned a lot from my ergo mining endeavor from that.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, that's why I think staking has such an advantage over proof of work. But I think it's slowly being proven, and I think it's also why you have people that are kind of like, especially Bitcoin maximalists, and that hate Cardano. It's just because, listen, like, their foundation is rooted in years and years of Bitcoin and how the protocol works. How could they ever just backtrack and be like, no, there's a better thing going on over here? Like, I think a lot of it's pride.
So crazy, considering that they found Bitcoin so early and saw the technology that was there and saw, oh, this is awesome. So how can they not think that something else can come out that can be better, that can be more efficient?
That's my thing.
It's like, where is that disconnect?
Yeah, they had such good foresight, right? Before, why do they not have that same foresight now? That's the question I always ask myself.
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of people don't really talk about the risks with Cardano. What big risks do you see to Cardano, both in the short term and maybe in the medium to long term as well?
The biggest risk is the same with Bitcoin, which is it could just completely flop. It could fail. There could be some crazy event globally, regulatory, whatever. And it's just, somebody, you can lose 90% plus of your investment. Like that's always just up in the air. Every day when you wake up in the morning, if you're invested in crypto, you should accept that and then make your decisions based on that. Cardano specifically, what happens if smart contracts get delayed? What happens if something goes wrong and, that doesn't get delivered? That's a risk. But even so, and this kind of goes back to the thing we were talking about before, will that cause Cardano to fail? No. Will it cause Cardano price to just tank? It maybe it actually doesn't. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. Like, so I don't think specifically for Cardano, especially with how decentralized it is at this stage, I don't think there's a lot of, risk in terms of the project itself. I think any risk stems more from the all around risk of cryptocurrency, which there's a lot of risk if you're invested in cryptos. There's definitely no guarantees.
Like macroeconomic
that's why there's exactly so macroeconomic risk, but that's why there's so much upside as well, because there's that risk.
Yeah, for sure. The only risk that I would really identify, that you didn't mention is the fact that Cardano still is inherently centralized with Project Catalyst. So when you look at it, you can kind of combine that with the regulatory risk too, because if Cardano is still, centralized, then the risk really is the head, the person that is pushing through the Project Catalyst proposals, the person that's working on the code. I think that's, in my opinion, the largest risk for Cardano, and then everything else that you said as well.
That's a great point. Yeah. And, that's kind of something, that's something Bitcoin doesn't have, right?
Yeah.
That risk.
Yeah. And the technology too, like you said, really, because there's never been a proof of stake blockchain, at this scale with smart contracts, so there's going to be a lot to figure out. For example, you'll eventually have the ability to delegate the ADA that's in a smart contract to a stake pool. What issues could that have with centralization? Or, there's a lot of things that, because this is so new and so revolutionary, how will this go,
Yeah. So what would be the risk, you think? What negative cause could that have?
So with a smart contract, if you get on DeFi and Ethereum right now, you see 150% APY, 100% APY. You compare that to staking as at its core right now at 5%. People that are in crypto are very risk tolerant. They're willing to lose all of their money if they can get a 10x or make 150% APY. So really the risk that I see there is centralization through high APY. Because you can, give your ADA to the smart contract, it's paying you 150, whereas, Bloom over here or CCV is only going to pay you 5%. That's the risk that I see with that. And, it's just such a complicated blockchain at the native layer. We're going to have both governance, smart contracts, and staking, and sending and receiving tokens, and native tokens. So there's a lot there. And then you're throwing smart contracts in there, on top of that, and then eventually governance, so it's so complicated. And that's why, a lot of us got interested in Cardano because of Haskell, because it's a formally verified language, and because of the rigor derived from these papers. So something can be done so complicated and, have a high chance of success because of the high assurance.
Yeah, that's a great point. The complications are going to be very interesting as we see that all worked out, right?
Yeah.
But partly kind of exciting.
It is very exciting because, this is making history. Because if there is a mistake, the mistake can be solved and we can move from there. That's kind of the
Yeah.
point of governance. And IOG is already looking at this right now with Ouroboros Omega. How do we design a self-healing blockchain? Because to design a blockchain stating that there will never be a fault seems pretty naive.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. I mean, and I think some people expect that, and that's just ridiculous. Perfection.
Yeah, and most people don't, I'm not too knowledgeable about it, so I don't want to go into it, but I've heard an issue in the past with Bitcoin in 2010 where there's kind of a double spend, but kind of not. And then obviously the DAO incident where ETH personally, they removed the person who stole the money and then decided to give that back to the fund. And, I never really liked that because that kind of seems against the code. So
Yeah,
I'm sure that
exactly.
I'm not sure, but there's always a possibility of some sort of, event that would happen like that on
Yeah.
Cardano. But, in my opinion, it would just be a short-term event that we would learn from and grow from, not
Yep.
Cardano's dead, because the community's still here.
And
People are still building.
yeah, and it'll lend itself to the entire crypto community, that knowledge, that experience.
For sure. For sure. But to close out for the day, we don't normally do this on my channel. The only time I ever did this was when ADA hit $1. So I wanted to ask you, you said that you don't do this on your channel as well. What is your price prediction for ADA for this year? And then I'll hit you with one more at the end of next year as well.
So I think a lot of this answer comes from whether or not we are in the bull market, right? So I've said I think we're still in this bull market. I think it's going to continue. And if that's the case, my price prediction would be probably the $8 range, $10 range for Cardano for the remainder of this bull market. And that would kind of be like a parabolic swing high top type of deal. I think $5 to $8 would be extremely realistic if we're still in the middle of this bull market. So that would be my price prediction. But I think the bigger prediction is like whether or not we're still in this bull market or not.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like even those price predictions could surpass, what I just said, which is, or Cardano could surpass those predictions, because I always think about, and I talk about it a lot, Ethereum hit a $500 billion market cap, right? And for Cardano to do something similar, that would be a $15 Cardano. So I just look at the potential and opportunity for Cardano up to $500 billion market cap in the, shorter term. I'm not talking like 5 to 10 years or anything. Like we're talking 1 to 3 years is just 100% up for grabs. So I think in the next 2 to 3 years, $15 Cardano is so realistic. I don't know if you want to call that a price prediction or not, but it's just, and it kind of goes back to the question you asked about Cardano flipping Ethereum. And that's going to be a world in which Cardano's likely sitting at $15. In my opinion. So
I agree as well.
Let's say conservatively $5 to $8 for this year. And then saying next year is a little tough because I think next year could be kind of a bear market environment. But we can say the year after, heading towards that $15 range. So there you go.
And I really do think that, if Goguen goes as well as we'd hope, and ETH doesn't have this niche use case that Cardano can't have, then the flippening is inevitable.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, because I told you, what did I say? Like it could happen in the next couple of years. What do you think in terms of when that could happen?
You talked about Cardano as this open canvas, for entrepreneurs. And I see it the same way. I feel like people get too hung up on this idea of big projects porting here. It's the island, the ocean, and the pond ideology. I think because Cardano offers Plutus, that these DeFi protocols can actually be written in a secure way, right? And we're not going to see all of these projects just migrating over here. I think we're going to have a few of those projects that do bring users, but we're going to have, projects that are backed by Plutus and maybe even backed by IOG research or research from other companies, research from Emergo, that will be better and have more users than the DeFi projects on Cardano. And as far as a timeline for that, it really depends on how full Goguen is at the start. If we look back at Shelley, there's a couple features missing from Shelley that we would have liked. Multi-delegation wallets, the list goes on. So, if Goguen has all of the features that it needs to actually compete with ETH right out the gate, then I really do think, a 1 to 2 year timeline. You said at the end of 2 years, I would actually lean more towards the 1 year mark, because if you're looking at it from an entrepreneurial standpoint or a business standpoint, you're just going to be looking at, the cost, the security, the user experience, and all of these new people that are coming to the space, these VCs, these institutions, they're going to be looking at it from that perspective and not the small-minded network effect perspective that we have in this space today. So yeah. I would say probably 1 year, closer to the 1 year mark, or 2 relative to the market, and also relative to, Goggen's launch.
I love it. That's what I'm talking about. You gave me new perspective too. I am always kind of thinking about, oh man, all these projects moving from Ethereum, but you're 100% right. Like all the new projects that are just boom, being built on Cardano right from the get-go, right? It's not just about and build better. Exactly. It's such a good point. I'm glad you said that.
We'll end it there. I had a great time. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we head off for the day?
Not really, other than big shout out to you. Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate all your content. You're just full of knowledge, and keep doing what you're doing. Everybody watching, just build. Even if you don't know what you want to build just yet, start thinking. I know there's so many just driven people out there probably watching this right now, and take risks, build. Cardano is an awesome ecosystem to start doing that in. And I just appreciate you. I appreciate everybody out there. God bless you guys.
Hey, thank you so much. What are your stake pools? We can't forget that before we head out of here for today.
CCV, CCV 1, 2, and CCV 3. Those are the stake pools. And we're growing them, obviously. So I appreciate you letting us do the shout out, and more to come as we build and grow. You know how it is.
Well, hell yeah, man. But thank you guys so much for tuning into this podcast today. This is the Cardano Aura. We try to upload these 1 a week. Seems like we're moving up to 2 with all the new projects in the space. But if you guys are interested in more, all you have to do is click that like button, click the notification bell and all, and subscribe if you haven't already. But if you did make it to the end of the podcast, please comment Crypto Capital Venture down below so I know you made it to the end, and Dan will know you made it to the end as well. And again, thank you so much for tuning in.